are uh, explaining. Let me find the page. We're holding middle of explaining about the levels of the hamshachas that are affected by the avodah of Yaakov. That Yaakov Avinu, through his avodah, he ensures that there should be able to be the Yaakov Holch Darkoi. First, there is the Vayelech Lavam Vayoshalom Koimei. First, it has to be in the morning Viashkem Lavam Bebaker. There's a level of the Loivin Elyon, and that comes down by davening. And then it has to leave so that Yaakov Holch Darkoi should be able to do his avodah of Torah mitzvahs. And once that is done, that Yaakov Avinu is able to do his avodah of Torah mitzvahs, so then we have the level of the further level that hechlif maskurtoi aseres moinim, that you have the levels of the seder ishtalshlus. You have the 10 times 10 of seder ishtalshlus comes down all the way from the level of akudim verudim, all these different levels that comes down into the hamshach of the world, that is something that is accomplished through the avodah of Yaakov, through the avodah of Knesset Yisrael. The Yaakov Holch L'Darkei affects those things. So now he's going to continue about this topic, the way it's a Torah is medaberes be'elyonim v'remeles l'tachtonim, that we are talking about the same thing in the other parts of the parsha as well, that these things are the levels of akudim, nekudim, verudim. I started talking about it earlier, but really it's in this part of the mimer. Okay, top of page ches, the beginning of the page. We even learned the first line yesterday. It was explained previously. The Torah speaks in the higher realms, and it hints down here below, as we mentioned yesterday, the reason why that works that way, not the other way, not the more common way of looking at it, that the Torah speaks in the lower realms and is just hinting at the higher realms, because that's the way the Torah was nishtalshel from above. So he says, moving from this is understood, that this idea of the Lovin is the supernal whiteness. Shalamayla, that's above Mamenu, Nimshach Koyach B'Yankov, from that comes down the power into Yankov. Shaykh Gam L'Klos HaSipur, the Parsha saying Avodas Yaakov, base Lovin is also connected with the general story of our Parsha, the service of Yaakov, at Yaakov's work that he did in the house of Lavan. So he says, the Hinei Avodas Yaakov b'tzayin Lavan, the avoid of Yaakov with Lavan's sheep. It was in such a manner that the sheep were either, they had these bands on their bottom of their feet, like Rashi explains. Akudim is in the word bound and bands. And then there was the level of speckled dots, spots, that's Nekudim. And Berudim is like bigger type of spots that like meld into each other, move into each other. These three things, Akudim, Nekudim, and Berudim, that took place, but with the Tzayne Yaakov, in the sheep, the way it is in the higher realms. The reason why down here below there are sheep that have these bands on the bottom of their feet, and there's a sheep that's speckled, and so on. This is all because there are these levels in the Elyonim, in the level of above. That afterwards from this comes down below. I'll say that Hamshacha, the Gimel Dargis Begillah Lakus, it indicates the order of the Hamshacha in the three levels of revelation of godliness. Tchila, first there is a level, Bechinas Akudim, there's the level of these bands, Shekoy al Dargizu, Shekba Kol Oirs Akudim Kliyachad. It's talking about a level that all the lights are bound up in one vessel, and afterwards there's the points, dots, it indicates the world of Toyu, that over there the 10 spheres are in a way of points only. There's no iskalus, everyone is separate. And then then when the splotches like flow into each other, it goes into the world of Atzilus, where everything is intermingled. There's iskalus of one sphere and the other. Let's have a look on the commentary on the right side of the page. Let's start from line 40 on the right side of the commentary, 2 lines from the bottom of the commentary on the right side. So he says, Hadavar Muzbar B'chsidus L'fi Mashal Mekaychas HaNefesh. These 3 things, these 3 levels of Akudim, Nekudim, Verudim, are explained in Chassidus from an analogy from the soul powers. When the soul powers are enclosed in the limbs of the body, Kol Echad Mehem, each one of these powers of the soul, top of the column on the left side now, Mugdar B'inyane HaMiyuchad Be'evra HaMiyuchad Loi. It's defined and limited by its particular purpose and the particular limb or organ that it is meant to function through. The vision is in the eye, and hearing is in the ear, and so too onward and other powers. But the way these soul powers are prior to them coming into the different vessels, the way they're in their root in the soul itself, before they came out of the soul to become enclosed in the actual limb and organ, they are all an inseparable part of the one soul, that is one entity. It doesn't divide into different parts, different pieces with different categories. All of them are intermingled together in the soul, without any type of division. Just like the soul itself is one entity, so all of these powers of the soul, the way they are in the soul, are really one. Now there has to be a transition. How do you come from the one entity of the soul, that all these different powers should come down in each limb and organ accordingly? So he says, line 46 in the commentary, in the beginning of the revelation of the soul, the beginning of the revelation from the soul of these different powers, they are much more refined and much more spiritual, incomparably to how these very powers itself become more coarsened when they're enclosed in the actual body, the coarse body of the body. Kach gam bizgal solakus, so too in the revelation of godliness. Be'akudim, in the world of akudim, kol hasfiras klulus ke'echad l'loy kol ischalkus. All the spheres are included together without any type of division. After a great descent from above to below, they become points. They become divided now to individual and specific, separate types of levels. They're still only points. And after an even greater descent, they are the level of brudim, splotches, is the simple meaning, if I remember correctly, of the Chumash. There are 10 distinct spheres with a clear division and clear delineation, each one differently. And Hamusig Kayam Ba'ofen Kloli L'maylam Seder Ishtalshlus. In general, this is to be found above in Seder Ishtalshlus. Akudim is the level of Ein Sof. The level of Akudim is the Ein Sof still. Nekudim is Olam HaToyu. That's the world of Toyu. Berudim Olam HaTikun. And then that's V'chein Seder Ishtalshlus Atzmoyit. It has this type of the delineation and chain order of descent. Let's go back to the text itself in the center of the page, line 14. The Zeu Seder Amshocha the Seder Ishtalshlus. Akudim, the Kudim of Rudim, that's the order of the Amshocha of Seder Ishtalshlus. Like it was in the literal sheep of Lavan. That this was the way the matter was arranged initially between Lavan and Yankov. That was the deal that they made, that they decided that you're going to take care of the sheep, and all of them that have bands on the bottom of the feet, that will be yours, or then they switched it around, all those that have speckles, or all those that have splotches, etc. Yaakov affected a change and transforming this and turning this over, the way it's in the literal idea of the psukim, that once Lavan saw how successful Yaakov was and all the sheep started giving birth to those that had bands on the bottom of its legs, so he started changing it. So Yaakov affected a change in the physical sheep down here. And the way, just like in the physical sheep, he affected a change, so similarly as well on the spiritual level, v'cheinu baruchnis and yonim sotus in the spiritual aspects, Yisrael idea with some oilam l'mayla yoy, so that even through their service they go much higher. Shepoilim shinui b'seder ishtalshlos, since they are above seder ishtalshlos, they are beyond seder ishtalshlos. Therefore, they can cause a change in seder ishtalshlos in these levels of akudim, nekudim, and v'rudim. V'zel mashakosov. This is what it says in the pasuk, that Yaakov Avinu told his wives, "Vehechlif es maskurti aseres moinim," that he changed around my salary 10 times 10. Top of the next page. The metchila haya medubar b'if mesuyim. Originally, the deal was in one manner it should be. Shezakoy al gila lakus kafish ubesad seder ishtalshlos. The way Yaakov's original deal was, that indicates that everything was going to be the way Seder Ishtalshlos demanded. But following that, Nasa Inyan Shalvei Chalfas Maskurti, it became that he changed my salary. Meaning, this idea of change shows that it's, instead of being limited to Seder Ishtalshlos, it became L'mayla Mabdidas Vagbolos, the Seder Ishtalshlos, Akudim, Nekudim, Evrudim. It became beyond all the measures and boundaries of Seder Ishtalshlos of Akudim, Nekudim, Evrudim. And this level that was beyond Akudim, Nekudim, Evrudim actually manifested itself in all the details of Seder Ishtalshlos. This came down in the 10 times 10. Hainu Eser, Kol Me'eser. When you have 10 times 10, Shazel Misper Meya, that's the number 100. In other words, all the 10 spheres, the way they include all the other 10 spheres, that shows that it's a perfect number, it's a complete number, it comes down in the most perfect way. Like it's explained in the Maimorim that explain, where it says 100 years, like by Sarah, it says that she lived 7 and 20 and 100 years, so it explains the significance of 100 years, is that 100 is a perfect number. But Pashtus, what does this mean? In a simple sense, through the avoid of Yidden, they draw down below not just the level of Brudim, which we said is the Olam Atzilus, the world of Atzilus, also the level of the Nekudim. What's the level of Nekudim? Ha'oiris merubim the Toyu Olam HaToyu. We know always the difference between Atzilus and Toyu is that Atzilus was Oiris Mu'atim B'Kelim Merubim. It was few lights, less light, in great vessels, and Toyu was the opposite. And our job through our avodah, we refine the sparks of this world, so we cause that those sparks that are rooted in the world of Toyu now coalesce and come down to Tikkun. So we draw down from the Oiris of Toyu into the world of Tikkun. So we say that we don't only bring down the world of Atzilus and influence the level of Atzilus, and not only do we influence the level of Nekudim, the level of Olam Atoyu, but he says, line 12, and even more higher, from the level of them being bound all together in one vessel, from, like we said before, it's the level of the Ein Sof. In other words, by the way, I didn't mention this before. I thought he would mention it in the commentary. Usually we talk about 10 spheres. 10 spheres have 10 oiris in 10 vessels. The level of Akudim, which is higher even than Toyu, even the world of Toyu have 10 oiris in 10 vessels, but they're only, each one is a dot, a separate level. But in Akudim, it's only one vessel. It's 10 distinct oiris, or 10 different oiris, but they don't have the vessels to make them distinguish one from the other. So not only do we draw down from Atzilus, not only do we draw down from Toyu, but we draw down from Akudim. We draw down from even a higher level, from the supernal whiteness itself. Atzmusi is Baruch Hashem's very essence, which is a nimshach lamata mamish that comes down mamish above, mamish below. In the Torah of the Maimer Alter Rebbe that we've been quoting the whole time on Vayashkem Lovin Bebaker, Vayelech Vayashkem Kaimai. So in that Maimer Bemuzger, in a parenthesis, Kaiser Shalom Bepashtus Lovin the Klippa Machlef Maskurtei Mamish Beramois. That this is also, in the simple sense, Lovin of Klippa changes literally his salary via trickery, like we know, Lavan Arami from the word Ramai, that he was a trickster and he was always trying to undermine Yaakov in the business. And the simple intention of this was the Inyan on all this idea. Everything that we spoke about in the Maimer, that's all the way it's in the spiritual realms. But the way Lavan comes down here below, he's not a good guy. He changed my salary 10 times 10 in the literal sense. Yet the question is, what's the purpose of the Alter Rebbe saying this? The whole Chassidus is based on this, that there is the literal meaning of the pasuk, there's the simple meaning of the text, there's Avram and Sarah, let's say Begashmis, and then there's Avram and Sarah, the way it's Neshama and Guf. There's Yaakov and Esav down here, that Yaakov and Esav are, Esav wants to kill Yaakov. On the other hand, there's Yaakov and Esav, the way Yaakov is on Matikun, and Esav's in the world of Tayu, and Yaakov is welcoming and trying to bring in the Netzutas of Elam Tayu. What's the Alter Rebbe have to tell us? You should know. We're not just talking about Lavan above. There's a bad Lavan down here. Okay, that's a simple meaning in the pasuk. What's Alter Rebbe trying to say with this? So here the Rebbe gives an interesting insight into this. So he says in line 23, the reason why the Alter Rebbe in Torah brings down that the simple meaning of Lavan is that he actually uses trickery to change around his salary. We're talking about that Yidden draw down from above this Loiven Elyon. So this is how far that the Loiven Elyon comes down. It impacts even Loven Arami, even the negative Loven, the Loven of Klippa. It makes him have positive Ainashik and Lebanav and all the good things. Yisrael, because Yidden through their avodah mailim gamas hachoisha was amiris doilam haza. They elevate also the darkness and the bitterness of this doilam haza of this world. Lafich hasheichol and hoidam nidul miska, to transform the darkness to light and bitter to sweet. That's through the avodah of tshuva. Tshuva is all about the transforming of Averis into mitzvahs. Like it's explained in many places. Top of the next page. In the Mamorim that explain about what's the idea that Mashiach is going to come to make tzaddikim do tshuva, because tshuva has a greater mila than a tzaddik. The tzaddik doesn't engage with the darkness of the world like the Baal Tshuva does. The Baal Tshuva takes the darkness of Gimel Chlipsat Meis, which the tzaddik has no contact with, and he transforms it. That's why it says, I will return in peace. Why does it say in peace? So it means, Bishalom means two types of shalom. Like it says, Shalom, Shalom, L'rachel, L'karev. That says, peace, peace. Hashem greets the one that's distant and the one that's close. So the Chazal says that what type of distant person does Hashem greet? It's not talking about that he's still distant. If he's distant, how can he greet him? But he's l'rachik shenasa karev, to someone that's distant that became close. And the Chazal say that who's first? If, since we just now explained that the one who's rachik, the one who's distant, is greeted first, that means because it's higher. Because the one that's distant and became close is much higher because of the avodah of tshuva. So therefore, the peace is greeted first, the one that's far away. The drawing down of the supernal whiteness down there below is in a way of an unbelievable union, till it's above even the concept of a union. Union indicates that there is two separate entities. But in truth, it's not even two separate entities. Because the existing yesh and the true yesh become entirely one. And like the expression of Chassidus, that this is one thing. The yesh hanivra is the yesh hamiti. With the entire storm, Yiddish expression, with the whole baggage that this carries and the whole intent and power of the statement. It's so powerful that you can't even call it a powerful thing. Like it says that Hashem is not even in a way of a tumult, it's beyond all of that. Where it says that Hashem doesn't come in a tumult, it says, but he comes in a quiet voice. It says, but over here, it's beyond even the level of a quiet voice. It's talking over there that Eliyahu Navi experienced the Kol D'Mamadaka of Hashem. So the Kol D'Mamadaka is the way Hashem reveals himself to a Navi, either through the level of vision or through the level of hearing. But that's not the connection of Yesh HaNivra of Yesh HaMiti. That's not about a vision that's being revealed. As opposed to, but the created Yesh and the true Yesh becomes entirely one. The created Yesh becomes the Yesh, the true Yesh of Hashem. It's beyond the category of the supernal whiteness and beyond the category of being above. Because there's nothing besides him and nothing at all. What's the difference? It's explained in different places between Ein Oid versus Ein Oid Movade. We spoke about it in the previous Maimon. This union of the Yesh HaNivra and the Yesh HaMiti that's beyond union, that's totally one, is something that is to be found and it is affected in the entire creation, Befrat Yisrael, but it's especially so amongst the Yidden. That the union between the created Yesh and the true Yesh is in a much higher level by them. That the simplicity and the purity and the non-complex aspect of Hashem's essence resides in the simpleness and the non-complex entity of every single Yid. Like it's known also the word of my father-in-law in the Pasuk Atam Tzav Mayom, that he speaks about this idea of the union of the Pshittas of Hashem with the Pshittas of every single Yid. So he says in the last page, this union is in the ultimate perfection. Higher not only from the level of Echad, but also from the level of Yachid, because Yachid is also about a union, but it's a higher level of unity. And the Rebbe says it's similar to mitzvahs hakel, similar to the unity of the mitzvah of hakel, hakel, V'kulam yachad mesachdim b'nei yiras Hashem, that we make no distinctions whatsoever between men, women, and children, that normally there's differences between them, but all of them instead are entirely one in the awe of Hashem. That year, Shnas Tavshim Memches, when the Rebbe said the Maimer was a Shnas Hakel. All this comes down below mamish in the physical sense. Lost love, because that's the way it will be in the future. Neshamas begufim b'likol and yon in time, souls and bodies without any matters in between of passing away and then rising up in Tchias HaMeisim. Shanashamati and Azonis Maguf, that the neshama will be sustained by the body. Machmas milas haguf and milas hamaisa shamaisa uikir, because the advantage of the body and because the advantage of action, that action is primary, which has to do with the body as opposed to feelings and intellect. Everything from above was given for the body and the action. The main thing is for all this should be down here below. 10 handbreadths with Gula Mitzvah Shlema, when the true and complete redemption, call it Perushin Shabadavar, were all the explanations of this matter.